guys, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a quick back to school makeup tutorial. You can also use this as just a simple work tutorial as well. It's pretty universal in that way. So starting off, I prepped my skin with the e.l.f. skincare. This is the eye cream and the daily moisturizer. If you're looking for some drugstore skincare products, e.l.f. is pretty good for how affordable they are. It's only like maybe $5 for each of those, and they work pretty well. So that's just what I used. Next, I'm going to go in with the Hydrating Milky Mist from Pixi, and I'm going to use this kind of as my primer. I like using a mist like this because it's pretty easy. You don't really have to like blend it out or anything. You just kind of spray it on and go. So it's really easy to use. For foundation, I'm going to use the Flower Beauty Light Illusion, but this is way too dark for me, so I'm going to mix it with the LA Girl Pro Coverage, their white foundation. That looks okay. This might be a little bit pale, but I can always mix in more of the foundation once I blend it out. To blend that out, I'm going to use the Flower Beauty sponge. It's just my favorite drugstore makeup sponge. Also, one thing to note, my face is a little bit darker than my neck, so most of the time I match to like my neck and my chest, not really my face. Because otherwise I'd look a little crazy. I don't think I mentioned the shade. This is their lightest shade, Porcelain L1. This is not Porcelain, by the way, Flower Beauty. That's really common though, particularly with drugstore foundations. It's really hard for me to find a shade match in drugstore foundations just because I'm pretty pale and they usually just are not light enough. Now, I spend a lot of time blending my foundation. It would be a little bit faster if you're in a rush to use a foundation brush. I just don't like brushes. I don't think they work that well on me. They are pretty much always streaky and I just don't like them. So I generally use a sponge, but you can always use a brush if you're in more of a hurry. For concealer, I'm going to go in with my Colourpop No Filter Concealer in Fair 04. This isn't my favorite concealer because it's a little bit dry for me, but I haven't really found a drugstore concealer that I like that much. Part of it's just because it's really hard to find my shade in concealers, but this one works pretty well. And I know a lot of people really like it, so if you have slightly less dry skin than me, you might really like it. I like it on pretty much all of my face except for under my eyes. That's what I don't like. I'm going to go ahead and set my face. I'm going to use the Colourpop No Filter Setting Powder, the loose version. And then just taking the flat part of this sponge, I'm going to pick up that powder. I'm not picking up a lot because I don't want to bake, but I am kind of pressing that on with the sponge. I feel like when I'm using powders, using a sponge with them just helps them kind of melt into my skin a little bit better because the sponge is damp. So I just kind of prefer using it, particularly under my eyes. For the rest of my face, I usually use a brush, but for under my eyes, I like using a sponge. I think it just kind of sets that space a little bit better. I'm going to use my EcoTools powder brush and try not to get too much of this. I'm not a fan of the packaging on this. It's just hard to get just what you need out of it. I do tend to crease on my forehead, so I'm going to go ahead and blend that out, and then my smile lines, just in case. And then I'm going to take that powder and press it onto my skin. I pretty much always use pressing motions with any sort of product on top of creams. So like when I use my bronzer, my blush, my powder, all of those I use in pressing motions. That way it doesn't move the foundation underneath. Next, for bronzer, we're going to use my Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer. This is just my favorite. I mean, I'm going through it. Even for like nicer bronzers I have, this is probably my favorite actual bronzer. It's really good for the price. I think it's like maybe like $15 or something. So it's kind of expensive for drugstore, but I have a hard time finding drugstore bronzers because most of them are either like too orange or they don't come like fair enough. This is the shade bronzer, so I don't use the light bronzer. It's very orange, but that's just kind of a thing that I've encountered with a lot of drugstore bronzers. I have a really hard time finding ones that look good on my skin tone, that aren't too warm or too dark or anything like that. I'm also going to kind of add this across the top of my nose just to make it look like I got a little bit of sun this summer, even though I did not. For highlight, we're going to go in with the Wet n Wild Mega Glow Highlighter in Blossom Glow. It's kind of a cool toned, like pinkier highlight, which I don't normally like, but we're going kind of cool tone today, so thought why not. I do like to use highlighter before blush because I think it kind of blends the rest of my products together a little bit better when I do that. I also do it before brows so that I can kind of sweep it up into my brow bone and kind of where my under where my brow bone highlight would be, and then a little bit above my brow. I don't want to use too much of this because I don't think it's that necessary. You can also skip highlight if you would like to. I just wear it every day. Another thing you can do is wear a glowier blush and bronzer and then skip highlight, and that'll give you kind of a natural highlight if you use like a shimmery product. For blush, I'm going to go in with the Flower Pots blush in Sweet Pea from Flower Beauty. Again, just a little bit more cool toned. Normally I go in with like peachier blushes, but why not? I did not wear blush in high school because with my rosacea, if I didn't wear a heavy foundation, then it would already be red and I didn't want to add any more redness. But I do think it looks better when you have blush on. I think it makes you look a little bit more put together. Next, I'm going to fill in my brows with the NYX Microfine Brow Pencil. I'm going to attempt to do this on camera, but I may end up cutting this out because it's kind of hard to do brows on camera. So I've been growing in my brows, and right now there are tiny little hairs that are not very dark that are kind of in this area. So I want to kind of connect right here to the arch of my brow. So I'm going to draw a line that is going to look really strange, but there are actually hairs there. They're just tiny. And then I'm going to kind of fill in above that line. If you are short on time, you can also just use a tinted brow gel and just run that through your brows and not actually fill them in. And that'll give you a little bit more dimension to your brow, but without taking as much time. For the arch of my brow, I'm going to try and stick pretty close to my natural brow, because I don't want to have something too crazy happening. And then toward the front, I'm going to kind of take it a little bit flatter and just do like tiny little hair-like strokes in the front of my brow. And then I'm going to take the spoolie end and just kind of brush through that, just to make it look a little more natural. And now I'm going to do the other side. So I think that's pretty even. Next, I'm going to grab the Essence Make Me Brow in Soft Brownie Brows and just run this through really quickly. I cannot not wear brow gel. My brows are too unruly to go a day without it. But this is a pretty good one for drugstore. Okay, I know I always look crazy when I only have brows on and nothing else. I feel like it just looks nuts. I'm gonna go in with the Wet n Wild Rose in the Air palette. I hate their packaging. Like, why? This is so hard to open. Okay, so I'm gonna go in with this palette. I'm gonna use this transition shade on a Morphe M433. It's just a little blender brush. I don't generally use eye primer. I just use my concealer and setting powder. I'm mostly putting it on this outer corner, and then when I have less product on my brush, I'm going to kind of bring it up just a little bit and then into the inner corner just a little. I don't think you need to wear a lot of makeup in school, but I liked to wear makeup. I liked to play with new things, so feel free to kind of do whatever you would like. You don't have to follow this exact tutorial. You don't have to do this exact eye makeup or whatever. Makeup is very personal. Every person does it a little bit differently. A makeup artist, you could have 10 different makeup artists do the exact same look on one person, and each of them would do something just slightly different, or, you know, it varies so much between people. So you know your face best and what works for you, so you can kind of adjust things however you need to based on your preferences, skin type, base shape, eye shape, all of that. The reason I'm spending so much time on this one shade is it's most of what our eye look is going to be. So I want to spend the time blending it out, building it up, making sure that it's the depth that I want and where I want it, because this is pretty much the only shade we're going to use. So we'll use a shade on the lid, but this is pretty much it for everything else. So I also really like cool toned makeup. If you don't, you can go in with the other transition shade, this warmer one, and do pretty much the exact same thing, just with the warmer transition shade, and you can do that as well. On our lids, I'm gonna actually take my highlighter shade. I'm just gonna use this on my finger, and I'm gonna pop this on my lid. If you don't have any eyeshadow palettes, or if you can't afford to go out and buy any or whatever it is, you can also use your face products as eyeshadow. So you can use your bronzer for this last step. It may not be as deep or provide as much of a contour in your eye, but you can also do that for a really basic, simple eye look. Just use your blush, bronzer, and highlight as eyeshadows. It's a little bit cheaper, and usually they work really well. And that's the top of the eyes done. I'm going to go in with a smaller blending brush, if I can find it. Here you are. This is the Morphe M507, but you can also just pinch this brush and use this under your eyes. I just like this one. And I'm going to go in with that same cool tone transition and take this under my eyes. I've also used all affordable brushes. Literally everything I've used today has been very affordable. The Morphe brushes, I think this brush is like $3. And so they're really easy to access. You can buy them at Ulta. So I like Morphe for their eye brushes, but Eco Tools and Real Techniques are generally what I use for face brushes. I'm going to go in with a tiny little like flat shader brush. This is actually a concealer brush, but this is the Morphe M421. And I'm going to go in with my highlight and just pop this on my inner corner. This just can help brighten up your eyes, make you look a little more awake. The last thing I'm going to do for the eyes is use a nude eyeliner on my waterline. It can just help you look a little bit more awake because it's going to make the inner rim of your eye look a little bit closer to your eye color. So it just helps you look a little more awake. And this one's just from Colourpop. I didn't mention that. Their eyeliners are just a couple dollars, so they're pretty affordable. I'm going to set my face using the Flower Beauty Seal the Deal Long Lasting Matte Finish Setting Spray. Well, I'm not actually going to because it's like 8 o'clock at night, but if I were actually wearing this, I would use this setting spray. Next I'm going to curl my lashes and apply mascara. I'm going to use the NYX Worth the Hype mascara. One thing I also wanted to mention, if you are like truly in a rush, you don't have to go through all of these steps. I wouldn't wear this much base makeup if I didn't have rosacea, but I want to cover that redness. If you have nice skin, you could just throw on some concealer, mascara, a lip gloss, whatever it may be, that just makes you look a little bit more put together but isn't like a full-blown makeup look. I'm just a little bit extra and I like makeup, so this is really what I would have worn to high school. So this is the difference that mascara makes. I definitely look a lot more awake, more put together. Okay, for lips, I have a couple different kind of ones that I would wear with this. The first is the Flower Beauty, what are these called? Petal Pout lip color in Warm Sand. This is a matte lip shade and it's just kind of a bullet lipstick. The Physicians Formula, the Healthy Lip, these are really good. They last pretty well. They aren't like super matte, so they're not like super long lasting, but I do not like super matte liquid lipsticks. My lips just feel like they're dying all day, so I don't wear those. So these are a really good alternative if you like liquid lipsticks. This is in the shade All Natural Nude, and so it's just kind of a like a light kind of tan toned nude. Bad at descriptions. This is a gloss. This is the Ultra Glossy Lip from Colourpop in the shade Flying Horses, and this is just a nice kind of cooler toned nude color. It looks really dark in the tube, but it's a lot lighter on the skin. So I think today I'm going to just use this because I think glosses are easier to just kind of throw on and reapply as you need them, and if they wear off, it doesn't look crazy. I know a lot of people can get away with not wearing anything on their lips, but I look crazy because my lip color is the same as my skin tone. There's not like enough variation in shade, so I feel like I just look super washed out if I don't wear a lip color. Okay, so this is the finished makeup look. It's really basic, simple, easy to do. If you are running late, like I said, you can kind of vary this however you need to. This took me it would take me probably 20 minutes if I weren't going through things, talking about them, blowing my nose every 10 seconds because my allergies are horrible. It would really take me about 20 minutes if I were just running through it start to finish. If you don't have that much time, there are a couple things that you can kind of focus on. If you don't really need to use a primer if you have a good skincare routine. So if you have a good moisturizer, just use that as your primer. You can just use some concealer instead of doing a full foundation. And there are kind of 3 things I would say if you are running late to focus on that will make the biggest impact, and that's brows, lashes, and lips. If you don't have a lot of time, just using a little bit of like tinted brow gel, some mascara, and some sort of like tinted lip gloss or something to give your lips a little bit of color, that's going to make the biggest impact in the least amount of time. So those kind of things will get you through a day without wearing off really easily because they're really basic. I mean, you may have to reapply your lip gloss, but just focusing on those 3 things can really make the biggest difference, particularly if you have good skin. I just don't, so I like a good foundation because I don't have good enough skin to get away with not wearing foundation. But if you have nice skin and you can just do like concealer or no base makeup at all, then those 3 things are kind of the ones that I would recommend focusing on. If you want to see any more kind of school themed makeup looks, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.